So I'm gonna be doing a Swirl tutorial as a video instead of a stream, which is unfortunate because it would have been more fun and helpful as a stream because I could have responded to questions and stuff. But if you do have a question at some point during the video, then you can just ask in the comment section. And if you want me to elaborate on something that I say, then you can just leave the timestamp in the comments and I will try to explain it better. So first let me just talk a little bit about my band. So if you saw the video that I uploaded earlier today, I think it is technically a permanent ban because there wasn't an appeal box, which is pretty unfortunate. But I think because I didn't really receive any warning before I got banned, that I'll be able to get it appealed. But even if I do get my account back, I won't be able to do streams, which is unfortunate. But I think the Scratch team is cool with me making videos, so I could still make tutorial videos and stuff. Of course, it would not be nearly as much fun as streaming, but like I've said earlier, I would rather have my Scratch account than be able to stream. So let's get into the actual Swirl tutorial. So for context, if you don't know what I'm talking about, this is the kind of like background thing that I've used in a couple map parts. I used it in Irresistible, Wait Another Day, Closer, and then I kind of used a more like 3D looking Swirl in Sarcasm, I think. So this won't be like the Sarcasm Swirl. This will be more like that Irresistible Swirl, or like the very two-dimensional looking Swirl. So this is gonna be the thing that I'm trying to turn into the Swirl. That's the only way I've done it. Like the few times that I have, I've taken something and like morphed it into that Swirl. Potentially you could start it from nothing, but I think that it is just going to be more helpful to start with an object. So I've made this character here. I find that the Swirl works best with something that fills a large portion of the screen. Like I've tried it with smaller objects and it just doesn't work as well. It really works well if you have something that's, again, taking up a large portion of the screen. So the things you will need to do this, at least in my experience, is you need 4 different colors, as in like 2 different colors, but 2 different shades of each of those colors. So like I can do a purple and a lighter purple and a green and a lighter green, but if I do just purple and green, then it's not going to work that well. So let's go ahead and get started. And the first thing you want to do is you want to make a frame, or you want to ease into the swirl, right? So you're going to make one frame with a tiny bit of rotation. And if you zoom in to rotate it, that helps. You can be more precise. So I just want a little bit of rotation, and I think that's good. So this is us easing into the swirl. So it gives your brain time to understand what is happening. That's what easing is. I can't talk about easing enough, but it's really important. So we're gonna ease into the swirl, and like the first frame is just gonna be a slight turn. Then the second frame, if I'm not mistaken, is another turn. It's like maybe about 2 or 3 times as far as the last one. And then I haven't practiced the swirl. I haven't done it that recently. So a couple of stuff will just be like me trying to remember what I've done before and me testing stuff. But let me go ahead and get the code ready. And by the way, I do this on 0.04. I just find that it works best for me personally. So just remember that if you're using a higher frame rate, then you're gonna need to like spend more frames doing these things that I'm describing, and if you're using a lower frame rate, then less frames. Assuming you're trying to keep up the same timing. Like, what takes me 3 frames might take you like 9 frames on 0 wait time, or only like 2 frames on 0.08 wait time. So again, just adjust based on the frame rate that you're using, but I use 0.04. So what we have here is we're easing into the swirl, and I think this is the frame where you start to you actually start to change stuff. So you're gonna move a lot this time. Let me just extend this because it's supposed to be like legs that are going off the screen. There we go. Let me also make sure that it's centered. Alright, so I think around here, this is where you really start to morph stuff. So there are 2 different ways you can do this, and I think I've only used one of these types, but I'll explain them both because I think both of them work. So you can think of it as 2 different ways. You can think of it as this character is like rotating really fast, and it's resisting the movement, if that makes sense. Or you can think of it as it being like pulled in that movement. Let me explain what I mean. Like, if we're gonna use like a blur effect, or like a smear, or not really a smear. I think smear is technically when you have multiple you have like multiple frames all pushed into one frame. But anyway, if I were to add this, then it starts to look like it is moving so fast that some of it is like being left behind in a way. Alternatively, you can make it seem like it's being sucked into this motion with something like this. Let me just say what I'm doing. This isn't like hair or anything. This is supposed to be almost like how you would use squash and stretch, right? Like it's just an effect to really get the motion across. It does kind of look a little bit like hair though. Anyway, this makes it seem like it's being sucked like clockwise right here. So again, there are 2 different ways you can do this. You can have it like sucked in this direction, or you can have it like resisting the motion, and this shows that like some of it is being left behind, kind of. And I think I've only used like this way, where it's being like pulled in this like vortex kind of. So that's what I'm gonna be doing for this video, but I think it can work the other way. So basically our job here is to start adding these blurs, or really they would have been blurs if it was heading that way. Now it's just really like part of him is being like pulled into this tornado kind of thing. So the way you want to go about doing this is sometimes you're going to add a shape, and sometimes you're going to modify an existing shape. And right here, let's start with making our own shapes. So you're just going to make something like kind of moving in this direction that you're going, except what's important is that the outside should be moving like it should be more exaggerated than the inside. Like right here, I want this to be like maybe that, except if I'm going to add something right here, I want it to be a lot smaller. Oops. Like this, maybe. And this is because the stuff on the outside is going to have to move farther to turn the same number of degrees as something on the inside. Like, it's not going to make sense if the stuff on the inside is making these wild movements and then the stuff on the outside is just going at this steady pace. So you want everything to be like going together right here. So we can actually just copy this shape and bring it down here. And just by the way, I'm probably going to end up like changing stuff. Like if something looks bad, like I'll be checking this, and if something looks bad, I'll probably delete it. So you probably shouldn't like try to copy this step by step as I'm doing it. You should probably just watch the video first, because I might go back on my word at some point. With that being said, let's go back to this. So I'm just adding like this like parts being like sucked in that direction, and now I'm actually gonna start modifying some of the shapes a little bit, and I'm just gonna like make it like make the edges like bend, and this is gonna be clockwise. So like this edge is gonna start to bend like this, and this edge is gonna start to bend like this. It's not gonna be like a mirror image. So let's see how this looks so far. Now we're not really going to be able to tell that well because we only have a couple frames. So let me actually do 4 frames. And this is a tip actually. If you need to check to see how something looks, a lot of the time if it ends on that frame, you're not going to be able to tell if that frame was too like fast or too slow. Like if you move too much or too little. So if you like overshoot by 1 frame and make it loop back to the beginning, then you can see if the last frame needed to be changed easier. So that's why I'm making it move 4 here. Oops, I need to make it start right there. Okay, so it's moving a bit fast. Like I'm not going to change it, I'm just making a comment on it. It's moving a bit fast, like it's starting to get sucked really rapidly, which means this next frame, it needs to be even more so. Like if it was only being pulled a little bit, then the next frame would be like a little bit more, right? But it went from like nothing to all the way out here. So this next frame is going to be from all the way out here to like around here, if that makes sense. Like I'll go ahead and make it. So again, we're rotating, and at this point you should be rotating a lot. Like definitely more than that, I think. Yeah, something like this. And also I need to extend this again. Probably should have just made it this size to begin with. I need to actually indicate that there are 2 separate legs now. Yeah, I guess that's okay. Okay. So you might see me like adjusting the positioning a bit, and that's because I'm trying to make sure that it's rotating like around the center point, kind of like I think like his chest should be like about here, and I'm just trying to find the center point, and I'm trying to maintain that center point. Like I don't want him to start spinning and then he looks like he's rotating about this point right here. Yeah, I should just go ahead and do a demonstration. So let's say our rectangle right here represents this person. So I can make it rotate like this, which is what I want to be doing. But if the center point, let's say this is the center point, is like, or no, actually, sorry, this isn't the center point. This is just going to be used. Okay, so the center point now is right here. And now if I rotate it, it's like you can see that it's not rotating the same as when I rotated it like this. Like now this is the center point, so it's not spinning around this point in itself, it's spinning around this point. You can just ignore the circle. The circle was just so that I could make it so that this is the center point. So yeah, you can ask me to elaborate if you didn't get that in the comments, and I will gladly do so. But I'm just trying to keep the same center point, and I want the center point to be more like that first example than that second example. So, always helps to flip through your frames. Alright, but let's go ahead and extend these, because that's what we needed to do. Maybe that, and then maybe this. And then now we're really gonna start to see stuff like this, and it's gonna start to look really weird, except it doesn't even matter if you I think I need to do this. There we go. It's not even gonna matter because people are not gonna actually take in this frame. It's just gonna like help them ease into the what happens next. So don't worry about these frames looking really weird. I think that's what I want to do. I might want to make the torso start to do stuff. Yeah, so just like kind of like pulling points in the direction that you're spinning, and it should start to like look okay. Let's see what this is looking like so far. Okay, I think it's fine for now, but this is definitely where we get into like the next phase. So like we started off with just easing into the swirl. You don't actually change anything, you just rotate. Then we started like modifying points and adding shapes, and now we're really gonna start to make like the swirls. Like we are going to this leg again. Okay, we're gonna add these crescents, which like half moon shapes, right? Which you make by, or well, you can either make it like this the hard way, where you just start like modifying points and stuff, and then you make like a half decent crescent that looks really weird because it's a parabola, not a circle. Or you take an actual circle and you click right below the right point and you make it pointed, and right below the left point and you make it pointed, and then you drag that in, and then we have a much cleaner crescent because it's actually circle shaped. So we're going to be using these crescents for this portion, and we're going to like start to turn some of the, or actually we don't need to turn those into this shape. We can just start adding this shape. But we're going to kind of do what we have been doing, except these shapes were like attached to the body and everything, but these are actually going to become like independent of the body and everything. Like they're going to make up the swirl once we get rid of what we originally had. So we're going to do something like this, and what this is doing is we're finally making it like obvious how it's rotating. Like before, we were just like stuff was just getting pulled and it was rotating at the same time. Now these actually indicate circular movement because they are crescents in a circular shape. Um, I'll talk more about these crescents because it's really important that you get them right. I've seen a lot of people that try to do the swirl and they don't get the crescent right, and it ends up not working for them. I think right here, I don't think I should have deleted that right there. I'm sure most of you know this, but just a tip, if you switch between costumes, then you can't undo something. Like right here, I can undo everything I've done since I've gone to this costume. But now if I go here and go back, I can't. Um, I'm sure most of you know that, but just in case any of you don't, and you're confused about why you can't undo your mistakes, it's also why you have to be careful when you're flipping through frames to check to see if something looks right. And you're like, oh, it doesn't look right, and you can't just undo it. So be careful with that. You might just want to play the animation so that you still have the undo option. So we're like distorting things, and I think it's either this frame or the next frame when you really want to just like break apart the body. But let's also get these eyes to start like, yeah, I think something like this, maybe. I think this is what we want. And again, like all these frames, they don't look like they should work, right? They look really ugly and seems like they'd be noticeably just wrong, but you can actually be like surprisingly messy with these first few frames because people aren't really gonna pay attention to them, like they aren't gonna see it happening. If that makes sense, I'll probably elaborate on that later, but let's just see what this is looking like so far. Okay, something is weird with the legs. I think it looks like they extend, so I think that's where they should end. I think we're looking good for now. All right, so now what we want to do is we want to like abandon the original form, if that makes sense. We are gonna turn basically all these shapes, we're gonna turn them into crescents, right? So let me go ahead and just delete everything. Or not everything, sorry, we're only gonna delete all the non-crescent shapes. Alright, now let's rotate these again as if, because remember, this is rotating, so even though we deleted the body, it's still all supposed to be rotating. Okay, so we have something like this. I should probably clean up these crescents, as in like turn them back into normal crescents because I've like extended them. Excuse me. And again, to make one of these, I pointed, and you just drag that up, and you've made a good looking crescent. So let's do this, and let's do this. And then let's also offset these a bit because we want it to look like somewhat random. Like there doesn't want to be, alright, there doesn't want to be, we don't want there to be like a normal, or sorry, not normal, oh my gosh, I'm so bad at talking today. We don't want there to be like a detectable pattern until we've gotten to a certain point, which I will show you once we do get to that point, but for now, we want to like offset everything. We want there to be like an element of randomness, if that makes sense. But what we're doing for this frame is we're turning all of this into crescents. So like let's look at the eyes, for example. The eyes are going to get their own crescent. So let's color that appropriately. There we go. I might end up changing the background color, but we want to give these eyes some color. So the eyes would end up like around here based on how much we've been rotating. Like maybe around there. And then his head would like, or at least some of his head would be around right there. His arms, let's see, I think one arm would be around here, and one would be maybe here. Then, so the center, we actually don't want that to be a crescent. We actually want that to be kind of like a circle. Oh yikes, I might want to move everything a bit. Like up here. I think that's what I want. Okay, so we're just, again, we're just turning everything into a crescent, a swirl, about where we think it should go. So, like the chest might end up around here. We're just making a bunch of these, and it doesn't have to be like exact or anything. You just like approximate like where it would show up. Maybe some. Actually, this might be like yeah, that'd be like that color. Yeah, so we're making something like this for now, and this is actually, I think I will recolor the background, because if you, I think I'll just make it like this kind of red color, reddish pink, because I want to save, oh, what am I doing? I want to save that cyan color for the swirl itself, because you know how I said it needs 4 colors? Well, that is what we need here. We need the lighter cyan for the swirl, and we're not going to have that if it's the background. Alright, so we're, at this point, what we're focusing on once we get to here, like we've turned everything into a swirl, now we want to work on like expanding this so it takes up the entirety of the screen. Or that's at least how I do mine, but again, like what I like to do is I like to make it fill the entire screen so that you get, one, you get a color shift, and 2, it actually is going to make it a lot easier on you, and I'll show you why that's the case. So let's make another frame, I think, or we can just watch it to make sure it's going well so far. Yeah, so like it's pretty messy right now, but that is fine. I think everything could be like a bit bigger though. Could definitely be bigger, because we're like focusing on expanding it now. That shouldn't be the center point. There we go. Alright. I think what I want to do here is, I think I want to add some more to the inside. Like so, because right now there's a lot of emphasis on what's happening on the outside, and I don't think I like that. I don't think that should be happening right now. Well, I think I'll just move on to the next frame, and then if it still looks off, then I'll go back and I'll correct my mistakes. But basically, there's like there should be a lot in the center, right? Because as we can see in all these frames, the thing that consistently stays in the center is like his body and arms and everything. And right here, it's almost like it loses mass, it loses weight to your eyes, which I don't know if I like that much. I think I need to maybe make that bigger. Yeah, I think that looks better. Um, but yeah, you want to like maintain the same general weight that each section has. Also, let me rotate it a bit because it looks like it's just not moving. It looks like we just turned that frame into Swirl without rotating it at all. Okay, so this is what we have right now. And let me just go through the steps again real quick. So we ease into the swirl, then he starts to get pulled in that direction, and then even more so. And then, yeah, earlier, so I said there were two different ways to do it. If you're doing it the way where it looks like he's resisting movement and it just looks like motion blur, then you're going to be doing, like, what I've been doing just on the opposite side. Like, right now, I pull it towards the direction that I'm moving in, but if you were to make it look more like motion blur, then you're pulling it away from the direction you're rotating in. But I'm pulling towards the direction I'm rotating towards. So we go to here where we start to like really add stuff, and then right here it just loses its coherence, but that is okay because now what we're focusing on is we're making this expand to the full screen. We also want to make this somewhat disappear. Like you this might not apply to you, but for a lot of my swirls, I've had like a single swirl for the eyes, and if you just make it disappear, then you're good. Alright, so to start with, let's just straight up make this bigger. And then let's rotate them all like at different speeds, kind of. So that it doesn't feel like this image is just being rotated and expanded. We want it to feel like it's still moving in a unique way. And then our last step for this frame is to start to like make this part really big, except you have to, let's actually, I might have been wrong. You might actually need 5 colors, but let's just see. Okay, so basically this is going to become our background color. Let's also add some extra swirls kind of like along the edges. It's just going to end up looking nicer because it's going to ease us into this filling the entire screen. So let's see what we have so far. Alright, so yeah, right now you can't really tell what's going on, but that is okay. Let's actually add, no, never mind. Let's add some more swirls because like we want it to feel like it's expanding, but we want to keep like about the same density of swirls like on the screen. So let's add some more of those. Let's add something right here. I think that'll look okay. Maybe we'll extend it a bit. Maybe we can make that get really small. No, I don't think that's going to work there. Alright, I think we need to take out a few of these. Maybe that one too. Alright, it's looking kind of messy, but I think the best way to do this is to just go, move forward and then go back and correct these things afterwards. Because at this point, we get to like the final stage of it all, and that's to just like really clean it up and make it easy to maintain. By which I mean, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take all these crescents and we are going to convert them into overlapping circles. And what this is going to do is it's going to make it like super consistent, and it's also going to make it easy for us to rotate them. So let's say bye to all those swirls, and this is what we're going to be doing. Also, this blue swirl, we just like pretend like it just disappears, and it's going to end up working. Alright, so this is what I mean. Like, this is kind of the shape that we're going to be using now. Except this is going to be the centermost one, so it's actually going to be a bit different. But, like, what I've done here is now whenever I rotate it, I can just center it again. Like center it on that center point in the screen where it automatically like locks to, and then oops, and then I don't have to worry about keeping it consistent because like just dragging it right there does it for me. So yay. Now this centermost swirl is gonna look like that, but all the others are gonna be a bit different. We're gonna want the part that's like overlapping it, we're gonna want it to be a bit bigger, and we want it to be more crescent shaped, like less like more like this, right, and less like that. So let's put that behind that. There we go. Make it a bit smaller. Maybe smaller than that. There we go. Alright, now let's make another, except let's actually make it like that. Just adjust it a little bit. Dang, I keep dragging the background. Alright. Let's do that. And then we're just gonna kind of like keep this up for a few more. And you don't actually have to worry about positioning it right now. And also you'll notice circles from other swirls will start to overlap, and you want to try your best to not let that happen. So like I'm gonna make this big enough for you to not actually notice that happening. There, that's decent. Except for these outermost ones, you can actually just get away with that. Like this circle from this swirl is covering this, but I think that's okay. Let's make it a bit smaller than that. There we go. Okay. So this is the part where you're really trying to make like a clean swirl. Let's just make that smaller. There. Like you're gonna be able to manipulate this part really easily, which is good because it's going to be the part that you want to carry on for the longest. Like all of this was just supposed to be like quickly happening to ease you into this. But let's just see what it looks like so far. Alright, yeah, it's still looking messy, but I'll just go ahead, I'll come back to that part later. and I'll just go ahead and explain what you do right here. Let's actually have one more really big one, and let's make it like that. And let's put it along that edge, and it's okay that it gets covered up. Like, I think this is fine. Maybe we can do something like that. Okay, whatever. So let's start like changing this swirl. So the way you're gonna treat this is you're going to rotate the inner one the fastest and the outer ones the slowest. Not for any other reason than it just looks good. You definitely can't make it all rotate at the same speed. So it's only a matter of, do the outer ones move faster or do the inner ones move faster? And I think it looks best when the inner swirls move faster. So let's make this rotate like about 90 degrees. And then center it. Let's make these rotate like that much and then center them. And then let's make these rotate a little bit, center it, and then this largest one rotates the shortest amount. So we have something like this. And I think, like, if I got the pacing right, then we can just continue this for a pretty long time. But I have to check to make sure that this is actually a good speed. And also make sure to flip back through your frames so that you can check to make sure everything's moving consistently. This, we do it a small amount. Let's see, did we get that right? Yeah, I think we did. Okay, let's just go ahead and play it, and now might be our chance to clean up. Oh, one thing I forgot to do was, I think it's supposed to continue getting bigger. Like, let's do this. Yeah, that's one part that I'd almost forgotten. So remember, it's like expanding, so we want to like ease into the point where it stops expanding. I think it expands rather slowly. I think this should be bigger. I'm gonna have to play around with this a little bit to just figure out exactly what we're gonna do here. Oops, that was a mistake. Let's just go ahead and group this because we're not going to change the individual parts anymore. Yeah, I think this is looking okay. It's not my best swirl that I've done, but I think it meets the bare minimum. So let's make it ease into getting bigger just a little bit more. So let's expand that just a little bit. There we go. It's not really noticeable, but I think it helps. Okay, so I think we're okay, now what I'm just gonna do is I'm gonna pay attention to like the smaller details and such, just to make sure we have everything right. And then also this background, it's killing me. It looks too much like the cyan. I'm just gonna make it white. Oops. So, um, I think what this is missing is, um, okay. I think I was wrong towards the beginning. I think you only need three colors. Um, but what I forgot to do was I want some of these to be a different shade. Um, like let's make this outer one a different shade. I think it just adds to it, like it just ends up looking better. Yeah, like it gives it some variety. So yeah, I lied earlier. You only need three colors, not four colors. I was thinking of like this little thing that I usually do for the eyes, because usually it's like a character that turns into a swirl. But I think you. Oh wait, I forgot to change the background. You do in fact only need three colors, and you don't even need three. I just think three looks nice. So, like I was saying before I interrupted myself, what I'm gonna do now is pay attention to like smaller details and just watch them to see if they move consistently. Like to start with, I'm gonna watch the eyes, um, because I think I was noticing that they weren't like moving in a good arc, or like they were disappearing too soon or something. Yeah, like the problem is that right here you barely notice them, and then right here it's very noticeable, and then just disappears. So it's not consistent because it goes from like noticeable to not noticeable to noticeable to then like not noticeable because it's not there. It needs to be following like a pattern. So my solution is I can make this bigger, I think. Maybe that would work. You can definitely notice it more right there, but I think I liked it better when it was kind of small. So let's try this out. Alright, I'm liking it, except this, I feel like this just has too much weight. Like it's too noticeable. I think it should like start to hide behind another swirl. And then what I should probably do is I should continue it again. Um, Maybe like, yeah, I think we need to do something like this, and it just goes off the screen. Yeah. All right, so I'm playing it because I'm like paying attention to certain elements to make sure that they're looking good and not like moving all weird. All right. So I think we can continue with this then, because I think it's looking okay, except I feel like I either used one too many frames right here, even though there are only two frames, or I just, I don't know, I messed something up. It just looks a little bit awkward. Let me actually change some of these to this color. I think that would help. Yeah, like take some weight off, because this is like a lighter color, less contrast with the background. Alright, there we go. Okay, so we have now gotten to the easy part, which is you just literally continue this like a million times. um, like what I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna flip through these, and I'm gonna say, okay, it rotated like maybe about like that was about 90 degrees. So maybe like about 1/3 of a rotation. So maybe a bit more. Um, I'm just gonna flip back through, like that felt like the proper amount of movement. And then I'm gonna center it, and then I'm going to do that with all of these. So these are both going to move about a bit more than that. There we go. And then these are going to move maybe about this much. That might have been too much. No, that was good. All right. We're just going to center them. The reason I'm like dragging them every time is that I think sometimes they come off the center point when like you have a shape like this. I've had experiences with I just keep on rotating it, and then I realize at some point that it's like it's shifted all the way off the center point, and it starts to look bad. All right, and this last one rotates a small amount, so let's go back through to make sure it's consistent, and yes, it is. And we would just continue doing that for however long you want the swirl to last. I feel like it looks best when it lasts like maybe about a quarter rotation as far as the biggest one goes. Ooh, actually, that might be a lot. I think in this instance, maybe like a quarter rotation as far as these like second biggest swirls go. Yeah, just like we're gonna want the swirl to last for maybe 4 seconds. So let's just continue this frame, and at this point I will just like, since this is kind of boring work that I don't really need to think too hard about what I do, I'll just explain some of the things I've been talking about in case you haven't been getting it. So all the crescents and everything, I've shifted between 3 different like types of shapes. First, shapes we just like randomly made in the beginning, that like kind of just were used to make it look like he was being pulled clockwise. We used those, and then we used crescents that we made, like we dragged points, and then we finally made this shape right here, which is like about as perfect of a crescent as you can get, because it is literally a circle on top of a circle. And the reason we did that is because with the first ones you can be really messy, and it doesn't matter. It's not the point that it's clean, because you're just like getting people ready for this, and they aren't going to be looking at it for that long. Then we shifted to the crescents that we made, because again, they didn't have to be perfect crescents, but we had to start like forming a good shape. And I didn't pick these crescents or this style because you can't really overlap them without like this showing like on top of this, for example. And that wouldn't have worked up there because we had like a bunch of crescents that needed to overlap. But finally, we got to this point where we could use these perfect crescents that were very convenient for rotating around because we just center them. And that's great because they look clean, and they're easy to animate, which is good because this is the part that you want to continue for the longest. So yeah, 3 different stages kind of our swirl, and each one has its upsides and its downsides, and you're gonna want to use them where they're supposed to be used, because like if I use something like this for that last part, it's gonna be really awkward because you're gonna notice how it doesn't look like a good swirl shape, because you'll be staring at it for a long time because this is the longest part. Whereas if I use something like this up here, well, for one, nobody's gonna care because they're only gonna see it for a single frame, And also, these crescents are pretty like bulky, and we don't want that up here because we want it to be like feel like just the first parts of it are starting to get sucked into this vortex, not like large chunks. So I might not even continue it. I might just end it here because like I don't really have anything else to add. Um, but yeah, this wasn't exactly my cleanest swirl, and I might make like a part two where I come to this more prepared. Um, Probably should have done like a practice one before this, but this is how I approach my swirls, and of course I go back and like this, for example, I'd probably clean it up by changing, I think, this frame, because it's like you go from having stuff like all the way into the edge to it all like condensing again. So actually, I might just see if I can fix that. Ooh, that actually made it look a lot cleaner. Okay. Well, alright, as I was saying, you have like stuff all the way out here, but what this frame did was it pulled everything back in, which was kind of weird because it didn't follow like the trend of what everything was doing. But I think that fixed it right there. And basically, the I guess is it like maybe 4 stages, but you want to like ease into the turn, then you want to start to like pull stuff slightly, and then more so, and then you want to start adding crescent shapes, and you want to make it just crescent shapes, except for the circle in the middle, and then you want everything to like blow up outwards, and then you want to like maintain this state for a while. So I think that was 5 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that was about 5 parts. Depends on how you want to categorize the parts, you know. But this is so that was just 14 frames. But obviously you would continue this, and then to like end it, you could do this, but like reverse almost. Not actually reverse, but like to like get rid of the swirl, you would start to like everything would start to go back into that center point. Um, but you don't even have to do that. You can just like once you do the swirl, nobody cares if you like do a slideshow over it. Like it's like if you put a lot of effort into this, then people aren't gonna think you cheated them out of like exiting the swirl if you don't like reverse it, kind of. Um, I'm just like rambling to myself now about transitions, but so this has been my tips for the swirl, and you can always go look at the times where I've done the swirl and see the different things that I've done, because I haven't always done this style. And like a more three-dimensional swirl would be in the sarcasm part. I do want to explain how I did that, but this is like two-dimensional. Um, and yeah, that's it. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys soon, hopefully, if I get my account back.